Film Reverie podcast is made for people. There's a little leprechaun dancing in my head. And I don't know why his voice breaks so much. Perhaps because he's so small.
So small.
I'm small. My voice is so very high-pitched. I don't know why I'm so happy.
My voice is overly high-pitched.
But then I get really sad. For no reason at all. This is part leprechaun, part Bill Cosby. You cannot see.
Part leprechaun, part Bill Cosby.
None of this can go in. You're going to have to bleep it.
Okay, everybody, quiet on the set.
Film Reverie Podcast, take A.
And action. Hello, Film Reverie listeners. This is Michael Beckemeyer, and I am joined with me today, as always, by...
I have Starburst in my mouth.
I have Starburst in my mouth.
And I'm Brad.
And Brad. Artist formerly known as Brad, who is now known as Starburst in Mouth. And today our guest is Calvin. I almost said James Vanderbeek because of the whole James Vanderbeek thing. It's Calvin Vanderbeek. He is he's a filmmaker, a producer, and he's been at it for like 20 years. And I've gotten to know him for off and on for at least a couple of years now on Twitter. And he's got some incredibly entertaining war stories. So... welcome, Calvin. How's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me.
He made you sound like you're a grizzled old guy from one of his...
Get the hell out of here. Go away, kid. You bother me. Ah. The kid stays in the picture or whatever.
Yeah.
So, how's it going? Tell everybody a little bit about yourself, like how you got started, your life story.
How I got started in the film?
Sure. Like, how did you find out that you wanted to make movies instead of whatever it was you were doing 20 years ago?
Well, I still have my day job to this day because, unfortunately, I got bills to pay. But I went through a rather nasty divorce, and once I got done with that, I always wanted to write screenplay, but I didn't know how. I've always been a writer from fourth grade on, award-winning. And so I went to the local community college, who has a pretty good film program, and started taking classes. And I started helping these guys make their films as a script supervisor, and looked around and looked at all the wasted time, effort, and money. So I just started producing all their films. So that's how I got my start into the guerrilla end of making films.
Yeah, so your Twitter name is Guerrilla Producer.
Correct. And you can follow me at Guerrilla Producer.
At Guerrilla Producer. So
I had to get that in.
Right. Well, no, you're supposed to. You're supposed to get it in.
And the funny thing is, just from knowing what I know about you now already, I feel like we've been in the trenches together because that is Mike and I. That's like all we do. I mean, we were even talking about a project we might do that we're just like totally just gonna run and gun it. And we're like, can we do it? It's impossible. And I'm like, no, we can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but what?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay, well, one of the best things about hooking up, and then I started taking film classes over there for the simple reason that I had access to all their equipment, I had access to their Avid machine to edit, and I had insurance. So basically what we would do was shoot movies using all their equipment, fill in on a weekend rental, which I only have to pay for a day.
Yeah.
And I could pick all the stuff up at 11 o'clock in the morning on Friday and return it 10 o'clock Monday. So we could actually get 3 days of filming off of it. And I would just start making films. And as the semester wound down and there was 2 weeks to go, then I would do the assignment. But in between, I was making films.
Yes. I can't tell you. I mean, like the past 10 years of my life has been on borrowed, making films and productions and pilots and just whatever I could on borrowed equipment and borrowed time and, just getting it wherever I can.
Were you midnight requisitioning the equipment?
Yeah,
or were you,
yeah, because
not you, him.
Oh,
I know what you were doing. I was there with you.
Yeah, I would basically take they had a lot of good stuff, and I would figure out what else we would need and fill in behind it. And by having their insurance policy, all I had to do was pick it up.
See,
and make sure nothing was broken.
So you're telling my story, man. use their people and use their stuff just because it's there.
Oh yeah, I went on like that for 3 years. I would take one class to keep me in that loop to access that stuff.
Yes, see, that's how you do it.
That's how I sunk my teeth.
Yes.
It's a lot easier making mistakes on other people's equipment rentals.
Yep. It's that's true.
Well, it's like nothing ever turns out the way you think it's going to turn out, and things happen. And over the years, I was able to anticipate all that and say, okay, Plan A is always the best plan, but you better have Plan B, C, and D ready to go, because something will go wrong.
This is you're saying all of my lines.
Oh God,
really?
I'm getting ganged up on by Brad and Brad too, by Calvin and Calvin too. Yeah. So, I think I met you on Twitter when you were working. I think you were just finishing, or maybe you were in the middle of working on. I'm trying to remember the name of your movie.
All Things Hidden, probably.
Yes,
right?
yeah. All Things Hidden.
Yeah,
which
that
I
was
saw
a brilliant story by Persephone Vanderbeek that I got involved in and became more and more involved as it went on.
So was it a film that was?
It was kind of. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I was saying, was it a film that was already in production, or it was in the script writing phase when you joined, or did you start it from the...
I got in on the crowdfunding when they were like, I want to say maybe a week into crowdfunding, and Persephone kept on... I don't know, I didn't even know how we hooked up, to be honest with you, but I just noticed her, and I said, go ahead and send me the script, and I'll see what I can do. And very, very powerful writing. So I wrote her back and said, okay, what can I do to help? But the thing for me, it was like I do crime genre, suspense thrillers or horror movies, and this was totally different, and it was outside my comfort zone because it was a pretty powerful little piece.
Yeah.
But I went into it all in, and glad I did.
Yeah. So you, guys finished that, and it's played some festivals, hasn't it?
Yeah, we pretty much got our run done with the festivals, and we released it online, and we're getting a lot of good feedback.
That's good. So, what did you learn from your festival run? As a producer,
there's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's a whole other ball game?
Well,
do you feel like do you feel like it did what you needed it or wanted it to do, or did it end up just give us the lowdown? How did you feel about it once it was finished?
Well, I would have liked to have done more, but the problem is with the subject matter. Basically the story is domestic violence told from a little girl's point of view. The screeners, especially the male screeners, were put off, and I think they were afraid of it. By looking at the feedback, the girls loved it because they could relate, and the boys were kind of standoffish on the whole deal.
Wow.
And
that's weird.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. To me, it was a standalone piece, and it was wide open enough to draw your own conclusions. And it was just frustrating sometimes.
Okay, so
it's like when you get the dear filmmaker chain letter, it's, Michael, you know about that.
Yes,
it's like you think you have a perfect match on a festival, and then you get the dear filmmaker letter.
Yeah, dear filmmaker, thank you for being rejected and from our film festival. Yeah.
Is that what you mean by the politics?
Well, I go from the dear filmmaker, your film stinks is basically what they're saying in the letter. Though I did have a couple of rejection letters that I could tell somebody personally wrote it.
Yeah.
Said we tried our best. But the form letters, I think that is the most rudest way to tell somebody that their film didn't make the festival.
Yes.
It's like a step above.
Personal opinion.
It's like a step above firing someone by text message.
Like, Dear Anonymous, blah, 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 standard.
It's a form letter. It's a form letter because they have thousands
it's
of
like,
people.
dear filmmaker, we took your $50, but you didn't have a chance to make it because we already predetermined who was going to play in the festival.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of politics involved.
But you continued on, and you still got your film into some festivals. I don't remember how many, and that's not really the important part. But what did you get out of actually having your film play at a festival? Was it so far away from what you normally do that did it help you as a filmmaker, or was it just good for that movie?
Well, see, I love to go to film festivals anyways to see what people are doing. In fact, I love to watch short film showcases so I can watch 7 or 8 films and try to figure out who the up-and-comers are. But it was a great opportunity to talk to other filmmakers and, see what they're doing next, their problems. We all have the same problems. It's pretty funny. It's like war stories. That happened to me,
Yeah.
And, that part of it was really, really cool. And I got to see a lot of really good films.
Yeah. Did you find anybody you're going to work with next time around?
What, from the film festival?
Yeah. Anybody you're like, I'm going to...
Actually, I found... I've actually got 2 people that I'm working with at the moment doing another short film. They didn't want to take the big plunge into trying something bigger. So, that's right up my alley.
Yeah.
I know how to stretch a short budget to make a short film.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's you can only learn tricks like that over all this time. When you produce something for someone, do people actually just approach you and say, will you produce our thing, and they pitch the idea to you and you say yes or no, or do you seek out people to work with, or how do you come across the projects you want to do? Just by being out there on Twitter?
And people that I meet, and I've rejected a lot of stuff that people send me the script, and they need to learn how to spell and use there, and there in the correct light, which just drives me crazy. But like the film I'm working on now, The Reverie, I always thought that Jonathan, the writer-director, was in England, because the story's based out of England. And come to find out, he lives 5 miles down the street. Huh. So I read it, and I'm going, okay, dude, we need to go with this. This is brilliant. And so that's why I'm working on, that's how I met Jonathan, through Twitter, actually.
Yeah.
And we're putting that together right now.
And so tell everybody about The Reverie a little bit. It's a feature film, correct?
Exactly.
And you're going through traditional financing avenues to try to get it made? Or, well, just tell us a little bit
negative.
about it.
We're going, actually with this, the traditional route wasn't going to work just because we have to stay true to Jonathan's vision. And if I took it to like a mini major, they would bring in their writers and screw the whole thing up. So we're going outside the box and raising private capital to shoot the movie.
I'm kind of interested.
Yes. Tell us the idea of the movie, though. Pitch us the elevator pitch, the 1 or 2 sentence version, and then I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brad. Then you can ask your question.
You don't care.
The pitch for The Reverie?
Yeah. Tell us what it's about.
The Reverie is a true story, based on a true story about the Borley Rectory in Borley, England, and it's the most haunted house in England.
Oh, okay.
And there's a character named Harry Price, who we don't really know too much. We don't know if we can trust him. We don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. But basically, he leases the Borley Rectory for 1 year to prove that if there are ghosts there or they're not. And a lot of things happen.
And shit goes down. I can only imagine that it's not pleasant, or there wouldn't be a movie about it.
Well, let's put it this way: the house comes alive, and we've got brilliant characters. There's like over 30 actors that are going to be in this.
Wow, for a short film, that's a lot.
This is a feature film. It's a feature film.
No, it's a feature.
I got confused.
But there's basically 6 main characters, but we have all kinds of other characters that are coming in and out of the movie as it progresses.
Oh, are they? Do you have all those actors because a lot of people need to die in a haunted house? No.
Well, no. Basically, what he does is he figures out that for whatever reason, the teenagers can cross to the other side to talk with a ghost. For some reason, their hormone levels and by them being adolescents, it comes out. So what he does is he runs groups of teenagers through the house to try to call out the demons.
Oh, so not just
alive.
Regular ghosts, but like evil demons from hell, which is more...
Well, they're more like
scary.
ghosts.
Okay, so they're just bad ghosts.
Some good, some bad.
Interesting. So, and it's based... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Based on a true story?
Well, the backstory on it is, the legend has it, the reason why it's haunted is because the nun and the priest had an affair back, I want to say the 1700s, and it was a big scandal, and the town had them bricked. They threw bricks at her until she died.
Oh, okay, that's fun. That sounds
that
like fun.
was the legend of why the house was haunted.
Huh. Because of the nuns thing, or because of the stoning of the nun, or the bricking of the nun?
Well, because of the stoning of the nun.
Okay.
She died there, and then her spirit was restless.
And then came back, there was, a history over, 80 years or so of ghosts appearing in that house and weird things going on in the house. And so the character, Harry Price, wants to prove it or disprove it. What is it? Is something really going on here, or is it all a big fable?
Huh. Well, that's awesome. So when I said you're going through traditional avenues of like funding or financing, I meant asking people for money. I didn't mean to say go to banks and do a financing that way, like to get your like $30 million budget or whatever. So you're actually, for lack of a better phrase, you're just asking people for money and escrow and all that stuff, or explain your process, because that's...
Exactly. I've got a drop-dead budget that I need to raise.
Yeah.
With a bigger budget, which would be the ideal budget, and I got a Harley that just pulled up. And the thing is, being an executive producer, I'm pretty good at it, but I hate it. I hate asking people for money.
Right.
But we pretty much have our pitch and brochures and eye candy, and can lay everything out. It's just I need them to cut me checks.
Do you have like go-to people that you come back to, or do you always have to scout new people to ask for money?
This one because of the budget, I've got new people. I need a bigger budget.
Yeah. Have you? That's what I was saying. Have you ever? Is this your first time doing a film this size in this way, or have you gone through this process before on smaller projects?
I've gone through it before, and it's like a house of cards. Everything's falling into place, and then somebody kicks the cards, and everything will fall apart.
Yeah.
And I had another one that fell apart at the last second. So, it's just a process.
Is it because money people, there's all the words about, all the traditional sayings about how actors are flaky and everything, which, by the way, I don't really think actors are flaky. I think creative people in general are flaky. But have you noticed that money people are even more flaky than artists?
I have no opinion on that.
It might cost him money.
No comment, yeah. No comment. So, what has been the hardest part? I mean, are you trying to? Well, I know you don't want to really talk about your budget. So, what's the hardest part of, aside from your own lack of enthusiasm about asking people for money, which is, shameful, like humiliating, all that stuff that you got to go through and blah, blah, blah. I don't really want to ask people for money. It reminds me of when you were a teenager and you had to ask your dad for $5 for gas in the car, all that stuff. What has been the toughest part, and what have you learned along the way?
Well, it's just you just can't take no for an answer. And sometimes you got to knock on 20 doors to get the one door that's there. It's like everything. There's just, you just got to believe in what you're doing, and you can't give up.
Yeah.
I'd really want to know, because I've been working with people and projects for a while, and I've never really figured out how to get my foot in the door to that first person. That I don't even know. How do you find people that have money?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you got to remember where I live.
Yeah.
Yes. And the next area code down from me is like the Palm Beach of Florida.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Put everything in perspective.
Yeah.
And I network. I meet people. They meet me. I try to hit all the local film festivals. I try to meet people that can help me. And a lot of them, the problem with making movies, high risk, high rewards, and it's not for, for the faint of heart. And, they're more comfortable maybe investing in real estate or investing, in the stock market or oil leases or whatever. And you just kind of have to match up and find the right person who believes in you and your team.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing, I can lay my team out there and let them meet them, and they're astounded by the talent we put together for this.
Yeah.
So, the bottom line is, like I said before, we got to drop that number that I got to keep on going until we hit that number.
Yeah. Do you have people that...
And then I'm going to keep on going until I hit that high number, but with a low number, I can start filming.
Right. So do you find people that want to... that, like, let's just say you had a $250,000 budget, which isn't your budget, I know, but like you have people that really only want to talk to you once you hit a certain amount, and then they know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. First money in is always the hardest, but once you get 100, the next 100's easy, and the next 200 is easier than that, and then bam, you're done.
People are more comfortable. One thing I do know about people that invest money is they're 10 times more comfortable investing money if you've already, somebody's already put in 50,000. It's so easy to get them. I'll match that 50,000 you already got.
As long as somebody else has some skin in the game.
And a lot of times, if let's say Mr. Jones put in, let's say for a round number, $100,000. Mm-hmm. Well, then Mr. Smith, 3 doors down, they're talking about it at a cocktail party. He goes, "Oh, you put in? I'm putting in too."
Yeah.
And then it just kind of snowballs.
Mm-hmm. So what has been, if you can talk about it, what has been the easiest contributor? I don't know what you call it. You don't call it investor, do you?
Yeah, they're investors.
Investors, okay. So what has been the easiest investor you came across, and then what has been your most difficult? Which is the one that like made you like do the most, the most elaborate dance to woo them into your circle? So what's the easiest? Like you just bump into somebody at 7-Eleven one day and say, "Oh, hey, I've got an extra $100,000 to give you for your movie." And
no, nothing like that.
Nothing like that. No,
I go to like Chamber of Commerce mixers, and I look to see who the players are. And basically, to invest in a movie, you got to be a millionaire. You got to have liquid assets that you don't, because it's so much high risk. And before the recession, my biggest capital guys were dentists.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, they have like shoe boxes full of $100 bills that they don't know what to do with. But, the economy got so bad people weren't doing all the elective cosmetic dentistry anymore.
Huh.
And then all of a sudden, that cash flow, all my go-to guys, because I had some guys down in Newport, I had some guys down in La Jolla, all these ritzy areas. Well, all of a sudden, they were barely hanging on.
Huh.
So had to rethink, who to approach.
Are the dentists back in the game now? Nowadays?
No, they're not back in the game.
No. Well, this economy
isn't as good as people tend to let you think.
That's been a thing that I've heard since the days of I started making movies. That like every book you read, every person you talk to always says, go to a dentist convention and start asking people to help you make your movie, because they have, like you said, just money coming out of every pocket in their wardrobe, and they don't know what to do with it, which seems crazy to me because I know exactly what to do with it, which is why I don't have any money. I know what to do with every single dollar bill I have. It's I know exactly what I want to do with it.
I really think that model dried up in about 2007. That's no longer true anymore.
So is it harder now, or is it just different?
Well, I mean, how do you find it? I mean, do you Google? Well, I mean, it's your experience. You already know kind of places to go to find them. But for someone who's starting out, or people like us, or who listen to the podcast, can I Google where are the rich people?
Where are the rich people?
How do you know other than Chamber of Commerce or California?
You could buy a list, I guess.
Yeah.
But now you just got to feel them out, and then the guy that's living in the double wide, he's not the guy to approach.
Right. So do you have
and it's
maybe the guys at the poker game?
You just kind of have to walk on feathers, and you can't be overly aggressive, but you have to be aggressive enough if somebody shows interest.
Yeah. So do you have because there's some things you have to do when you're asking people to invest. How do you prove that you're not exploiting their last $5,000 or their, you know what I mean?
Well, we have to have a minimum investment bigger than that for starters.
Right.
But I've got a whole investment package set up, and I show them what it's going to cost, how we're going to do it, where we're going to go, why we're going to do. If this scenario happens, this will be the payoff. If this scenario happens, the better will be the better payoff. And then if this scenario happens, everybody can laugh all the way to the bank. But, I got to drill it in their head that their investment is at risk.
Right. It's
it's not for the faint of heart.
That's the thing. It's if it was, it's actually it's a horrible investment to invest in a movie. You know what I mean? It's so risky to ever see anything in return from it. That's the hard part in convincing somebody.
Yeah. What do investors get out of it most of the time? Let's say most of the time they don't make their money back. And those people that you go back to, what are they getting out of it that they can just say, hey, I helped make this film?
Well, yeah, they'll be listed, as executive producers and everything.
They get the credits.
But, basically the way it works is every dime that comes in the door goes to them until we hit break. And then, because that's my motivation, because I'm not making a nickel. I'm not even getting paid until after we hit the break point. And then that's when all my back salary kicks in.
All right, so then you're also hustling at film festivals, too, because you're trying to make that money back and promote the film.
I'm hustling all day long. And, after the film's out and everything, I'm still hustling until we get that money back.
You're like the hardest worker.
I'll be working on this film. Yeah. Well, I'll be working on the film for another year.
Exactly.
Until, through distribution platforms, until we get our budget back, at least if we break even, these guys aren't going to lose anything.
Yeah.
So, and that's my job as producer, to make sure that they at least get their investment back. But it would be nice if we could double or triple their investment.
Yeah, it would be great for everybody because then you don't have to feel bad about asking them to help you make another movie. To be honest.
Well, hopefully, if this one flies, we already have the prequel and the sequel.
Excellent.
Ready to go. This is part 2 of a trilogy. We're going to tell the middle story first.
Right.
And the goal is to make this the best we can. And I've got a talented filmmaking crew on board. And then hopefully the money will come to us to shoot the other 2.
So,
that's the ultimate goal.
So do you begin with the end in mind, I guess, whenever you work on when you agree to work on a film or a project? You're like, you mentioned trilogy, so I'm thinking, because when Mike and I talk about projects, we kind of go off like that to we begin with the end in mind, and it seems like you work that way. So are you the big picture kind of guy, and you're thinking all of that stuff even in pre-production?
Well, yeah. Well, the thing is, with this story, we're only telling 1 year out of a 100-year story, and there is so much stuff that went on in this haunted house that the prequel will be a standalone with a whole different set of characters.
With a doll?
The sequel will be standalone with a whole another bunch of characters.
No, I was referring to Annabelle.
So let me ask you, how much does your pitch for how you want to distribute your film go into your pitch to the investors? Video on demand, cable,
well, we're going to try to get distribution.
Yeah. That's
the ultimate goal. And if that doesn't work, part of the budget is to four-wall it ourselves, okay, and take it out ourselves.
Yep.
And because the more we can get, the more we can get, especially when it comes to foreign sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about. Do you make more money or most of your money on foreign sales, or?
No, but it sure helps fill the gap.
Yeah.
But, ultimately we'd have, somebody picks this up and go for, limited distribution and play in the 50 top cities, on one screen. And then that'll get the word out. And hopefully, the perfect model would be the Blair Witch model.
Yeah.
Where, they were getting a $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 per screen average every time it played.
No,
you couldn't see the movie every time. It would sell out every show once the word got out.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're trying to put together a premium product that everyone is going to want to see.
I'm curious. Where does the internet come into play with that? Do you do anything on internet or with Netflix where you can make money with that too?
Well, yeah, but instead of being your primary thing with Netflix, you want to do that second or third or fourth,
Right.
So that money is not that huge.
Yeah, they're basically getting like pennies on the dollar for every...
They're giving you pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when you go to Netflix when you don't think you can make any more money.
Yeah, the reason we're able to see things like the Avengers or whatever on
demand.
on video,
they charge you like $10 on demand, like before it goes to Netflix.
Oh well, that's one thing. But the Netflix thing, the reason we're able to see those movies is not because the Avengers is making so much money every time you click on it. It's because Netflix has made a deal with like Marvel to have their movies on their Netflix instant play thing.
Yeah.
So the Avengers, like they're not. I don't even know. I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I do know that Netflix has paid Marvel for the rights to have their things on demand on Netflix. Not that they're getting paid every time you click to watch the Avengers.
So Netflix is basically when you just want to release the film to the world and you're done making money.
Yeah.
Well, Netflix and that kind of stuff, that model would work if you're shooting an ultra-low budget movie, but if you're going above that threshold, you need to have other revenue sources.
Yeah, I'm wondering...
Never make it back.
I'm sorry, I'm asking a lot of questions.
No, go ahead, Brad.
Because, we made a short film and we got into the Orlando Film Festival, and we've discussed some, possibly putting it online and charging, I don't know, $5 or $2 or something. I'm wondering, what do you think about? I mean, because we don't have the ability or capacity. I don't really see. I don't know if we see the film getting into theaters nationwide.
Oh, it's not getting into theaters.
Yeah.
No.
So, what is there any kind of money-making model for short films?
Well, there really isn't a market for them, but if you can build a fan base, and I think you're dreaming for $5 or $10, but you might be able to get $1 or $2 or $3 to watch the film.
Yeah, probably $1.
And that's a model too that you can do, but you're not going to get rich off of it. I guarantee you that.
What about iTunes? Have you explored that at all?
I'm not really familiar with them yet, but that's another stream.
Yeah.
And but the same way is they get most of the money.
They do. They get. I can't remember if it's 60 or 40%, but they get a giant chunk of your money.
Yeah, they get a big chunk.
Yeah.
But they do give you a platform to show it, and it's all about building your fan base and getting people to click on the link and buy the movie.
So you mentioned,
or at least watch the movie, I guess.
Yeah,
or even, honestly, to be aware of it, because something gets onto iTunes that has all those people that are clicking on iTunes looking for something to watch or to see or to rent or whatever. That's something that you wouldn't have if you weren't there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of feeds off of itself. But you mentioned earlier,
but by the same token, though, you can build a fan base. And they go, oh, we saw Beckermeyer's last film. I wonder what he's up to now.
Yes. And,
word of mouth and social media goes a really long way.
Yes.
Because, after watching your film, I would watch any film you ever did.
Well, thank you.
It was good, strong writing, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, you can... you could give a couple things away for free and then build up to something where you can, possibly have a revenue source coming in.
Exactly. That's sort of, that's the trick of the independent filmmaker, is the magic trick, go from doing stuff that nobody's ever seen and heard of to being the guy or the person, the filmmaker that now everybody wants to see.
Well, I saw about, a year and a half back, someone did a Kickstarter, and they already had the movie done, and basically for $5 you could watch the movie, and he brought in a lot of money, like tripled what he was looking for, because it was a good film, and people would pay to watch it.
Huh.
So... There's ways to do it. The biggest thing is never give up. I mean, it's like if I gave up every time a door was slammed in my face or I was hung up on the phone, I would have quit a long time ago. You got to believe in your product.
Right. It can't just be something you pulled out of your ass and now you're trying this.
No.
You have to really...
And unfortunately, too many people try to pull it out of their ass. They really do. They don't want to put in the hard work. And, dude, this is hard work.
It is.
And
the people don't realize that. People don't realize all the time I have people saying, "Hey man, I want to write a movie with you, or let's make a movie. Why haven't we made a movie together yet?" It's like, well, to be honest with you, the only reason I know that we haven't made a movie together is because you don't want to do the work. You just want to have your name on something. It's like people do not realize.
Well, you know what it's like writing a screenplay. It's like, the best thing to write is fade to black so you can go back and rewrite it 20 times.
Right. This is what's my...
You know what I mean? You got to get that initial idea down, and then you got to tweak it, Every scene, every character, every word needs to drive that story forward.
Yep.
And most people that think they're writers actually aren't, because they don't know how to tell a story.
Right. And they just don't realize how much work. It's not like you get this. It is not like one of my favorite stories to tell is I was shooting something one day, and my sister was like, "Oh, this sounds like so much fun. I want to come by and see and watch. And I'm like, okay.
I remember.
And I told her, you're
playback,
not,
right?
Yeah, you're not gonna like it. I'm like, if you have no interest in filmmaking, it's the most boring thing ever because it seems like people are just standing around doing nothing. It's not nearly as glamorous as the Academy Awards make it look.
It's not glamorous at all.
Like the Academy, you might watch the Academy Awards and you see all the people walking the red carpet, and that's what you think about when you see a movie. It is the most tedious, obnoxious, slow, drawn out process.
Disorganized. And
chaotic. Well, it's an accident waiting to happen.
It seems disorganized.
If you have no interest in it, you only have you have to love it for that process to be any fun.
Well, right, and the thing is like, once you're walking the red carpet and getting interviews, you're already on a project or two ahead of that.
Right, but people don't know that.
It's just like it's like the afterthought, to go to a cocktail party.
Right, that's the part that people don't know, and I try to explain to them. Like I teach high school television production, and my students know that they can sidetrack me by asking questions about making movies. And I try to explain to them that it's slow, drawn out, and tedious, and you have to be meticulous, and you have to have critical thinking skills, and you have to be able to make decisions on the spot.
Problem solving
and
skills.
They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, I shot something, in one class yesterday, and I look at them all and say, it makes me nervous that you shot that quickly. Because that to me says you didn't put a whole lot of time and effort into it, and you just sort of, whipped it out. And they're looking at me like, you're just some old guy who just wants to make things longer and harder than they really are. And I'm like, well, I mean, you saw the Avengers, you saw this movie that's just out in theaters this week or whatever. Nobody shot a whole 5-minute thing in 45 minutes,
It's the YouTube generation.
Yeah, it's the YouTube generation. Everything's like cheap video, DV, let's get it out.
Yeah, just get an idea, go shoot it, and then you get 100,000 hits.
Well, I'm a firm believer in pre-production. To me, it can never be long enough because you got all these different departments, where, the production design, the costume design, and with the camera. And, you've got to talk everything out. How do you see this? What do you think we're doing? How can we do this? And scheduling and all that kind of stuff, because you don't want to kill your crew, but by the same token, you don't want to have 3 o'clock roll around with nothing to shoot. There's that fine line there of pushing everybody, but not pushing them over the edge.
Right. It's like you have to find a good balance, like a yin and a yang.
And you got to know your filmmakers, you got to know your director, you got to know your DP. What's their comfort zone?
So earlier in this conversation, you said something about trusting staying true to the writer director's vision. Is that something that you feel as a producer is something that's you want to do on this film, or is that something? Are you a director's producer? Is what I'm trying to say. Do you want to find a director that has something to say and stick with that?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. That has a sense of story, who has a style, vision, and knows what they're doing. Which is Jonathan Chance is just an amazing creative talent, untapped. Everyone will know who he is after this is shot out, but. No, as being a writer and everything, it's just like the way Hollywood works, which really bothers me, is they'll take your script, they'll buy it, or option it, or whatever, then they'll bring in 3 or 4 writers, and what you see on the screen isn't anywhere close to what you wrote.
Yeah.
They can take a good script and make a pile out of it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, they want to, we love this. We just want to change everything about it.
And I disagree with their formula.
It's like, we love your script. There's just this thing in between page 1 and the last page that we want to change. And that's all of it. We want to make it fit our thing.
Then this is a little slow right here, so let's CGI a tornado through the scene. It's like, well, the tornado really has nothing to do with anything. Yeah, but it looks good.
Yeah, what this needs right here in the middle of this conversation is a chase scene, a chase sequence, like a fight scene.
Oh, yeah.
What? It doesn't fit anything. It's a comedy about people on a road trip. What?
Well, my general rule is I love independent films, and I got a small little old-time theater up the street here that's all they play. And my general rule of thumb is if the budget's over $5 million, I'm probably not going to watch it.
That's good. You mean ever? What was the last movie over $5 million?
Now and again, I'll go to the big theater for the big movie. But as a general rule, the best stories are independent ones coming out of America, coming out of Europe, and they're character-driven stories. And you care, if the guy lives, dies, or if he cuts off his finger, or if he leaves his wife. You care because the characters are good with good acting. You don't need a guy who has star power just to show up, come out of his trailer, and throw some lines out, and then go back in and sit. Because everyone on board, including the actors on independent films, they care, and they care about their craft, they care about their character, and those guys can come up with stuff you weren't even thinking about. They go, hey, how would if I do it this way? And you're going, wow, I didn't even think about it like that.
Preach on, brother.
Shoot it.
So that's what I feel about like the last couple of films I've made. Is when I've really fallen in love with the process of starting out with an idea, whatever it is, writing that idea down. I didn't write Impasse. That was Jeannie Bowerman, who, by the way, is like, I wanted to work on a movie that I didn't write so that I could, see what it was like to work with a writer and see, like, from the flip side and just direct something that I wasn't writing. And I actually learned a ton about what it is to be a good writer by not writing that thing.
That sounds weird.
And
that's it. Yeah.
My favorite part of the whole thing, the past couple of projects I've been on, has been the feeling that it was small enough, it was still quaint and small enough that I felt like, as a director, I basically sculpted the movie that I wanted with my own bare hands in a way. I made. When I say I don't mean only me, but like as the director, it was handcrafted by the people that worked on it. It's like you're walking down the street at an arts festival and you see somebody who carved something out of wood, and it's so much more interesting than some piece of plastic that looks exactly the same, because someone laid their hands on it and it like has that there. And that's why I feel like the smaller movies are so much more like, if you have the patience to sit down and like, just because there's no explosions or, the Incredible Hulk, which is awesome and all that stuff, but just because that's not in there doesn't mean it's going to be a boring movie. I like seeing what people can do with a camera, some lights, and a couple of actors. You know what I mean? Because that is real ingenuity and creativity, is when you strip it down to two people in a room talking. Can you keep people interested for 2 hours? Can you gonna show them some shiny, flashy stuff and blow some buildings up, and then of course, like, you walk out of that and you think, wow, that was exciting, but was it good? So is that why?
Exactly. Well, I always like the movie that it intrigues me, and I'm thinking about it a couple days later of what did I see?
What did I see?
And I've seen a lot of them at the Independent Film Festivals that way, where somebody just had this obscure take and style on a story that you could interpret many different ways. And it's just like, I'm still thinking, I saw this animation movie at it was a short, it was only 5 minutes long, at First Glance Film Festival, and I was thinking about it the whole way, and the kid who made it was like a little 19 or 20-year-old kid out of Nova Scotia who wasn't there, and I just kept on thinking about this clay animation story that he told that was just steampunk weird, in a good way. With a good way, and I'm just going, this is amazing.
Isn't it annoying that you just told a story about a movie that really captivated you, and it's by a 19-year-old kid? Like,
talent is talent.
Talent is talent. I know, but it makes me feel so old Like I have some really talented students in my class, and I'm not just saying that because I teach them, but they were students that were talented before I even got there as their teacher. But they are so young, and they were born with cameras and computers in their hands already. And they are so much further along at 16 and 17 years old than I wasn't even trying to make movies when I was 17 years old. It wasn't even possible. Because back when I was 16 or 17, if you weren't making a movie on film for, $50,000 short film budget, you weren't making a movie. I was a trumpet player.
Right. Well, I broke my teeth on Super 16. And, and the cost involved, with the thing about digital is, the cost factor isn't there anymore.
Yeah. It's crazy
where I'd be trying to get end cuts and, old stock from Kodak, where I could only roll like 400 feet at a time, and then all the costs, involved in processing that film. I mean, it was expensive. Now you just, have a good disk that can load everything on your hard drive and you're off and running. And, you don't have to cut. You can keep on going and say, start halfway through, redo it, and the actor's in character, and you can get the performance you're looking for without having to, used to drive me crazy hearing the click, 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 click of the film running through the camera.
Yeah, yeah. That's money, man.
'Cause I'm just, you're looking at 40 cents a foot.
Yeah, then that is the incredible thing, because nowadays an expensive short film is something that it's going to cost like $15,000 and $20,000 to make this. You couldn't have made a 15,000. You couldn't have made a 15,000. Yeah, because you couldn't have made a $15,000 short film on film. That's when Robert Rodriguez came out with El Mariachi way back in the 90s, and it cost $7,000. That's why nobody really believed it, because they'd never heard that before. Like, how did he do that?
Yeah, but you got to remember, too, is he was the director, editor, DP. He did everything.
Sound design.
He didn't have to pay a crew.
Yeah, exactly. It was a one-man
gang.
He was a rebel without a crew to...
exactly.
Call back to his book.
But the thing is he got that movie out, and he had a sense of style and direction that was his own. And like to the action see what like you can tell when he makes a commercial, because he has a style involved there.
Yeah. And
he just needed to get something out there as a calling card to move on, and he did.
And it worked.
The rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. He's still doing it. So if somebody wanted to find you, contact you, find out more about your movie, where would they go? What would they do?
Well, you can follow the Rectory. We're on Twitter at Reverie Film. And we also have a Facebook page up, the Rectory Feature Film, I think it's called. And we're trying to get a website online as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you can follow me as Gorilla Producer, and if you need more info, you can DM me, and I may or may not give you the secret way to get a hold of me.
DM meaning direct message?
Oh, yeah, DM.
Correct.
I didn't know that there was a secret way. I must not have been invited to the inner circle. Is this a direct line to the Batcave?
I get a lot of spam, and it's like, hey, check out my movie. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this and the other. Yeah. And I really don't give out my email address that easily.
Here's what it's like to know you on Twitter, okay? First of all, you're very talkative, you're very interactive, you're very supportive of other filmmakers. I know you because we swapped movies one day, and we showed each other's movies, and we became friends essentially online. At least the Twitter.
I became a fan after I watched your movie.
Right, we became friends because we became fans of each other's work, and but ever since then, here's what it's like to know you on Twitter. I did a Kickstarter campaign which you are highly supportive of. You are a tweeting machine, and I know you most likely just set a tweet that to automatically go out. But literally every time I got on Twitter while I was running my Kickstarter campaign, there were 2 or 3 tweets from you that I was like, you're tweeting more than I am, and that was the incredible part. But that was awesome. So thank you for that, for being just like a supporter of people who are trying to make cool stuff, good stuff. But I met somebody who is in Orlando, and they're a filmmaker in Orlando, because they saw, not because I knew him, but because he knew you and saw you tweeting stuff about me, and then I tweeted back. So we met through you, even though we're in Orlando. You're in California, and somehow we met each other through you all the way out in California. So that's
Would
what
that
it's
be
like.
Mr. Fuego?
Yes. And
I met him because a couple years, I want to say maybe a year and a half ago, his very talented, I think he was 15 at the time, son was trying to do Indiegogo to shoot a film, and he reached out for me, help, I don't know what to do, nobody's getting on board, what do I do? And so I gave him my knowledge, and then I turned him on to some other people to help him too, and they were able to raise their budget and start shooting film. And his son is very, very talented. I think he's probably 17 by now, but he's got the eye.
I have yet to meet them in person, but I think that they're going to come. I think I'm going to get to see them at the. Well, we're going to meet at some point, because not more than anything, I just want to meet people who are making movies, and I'm really on a mission to meet more local Orlando people. So, but it was.
You got to meet. Yeah, you got to know who the local filmmakers are, and you can help them out. They can help you out. And that connection will go a long way.
So you are like you're like the guerrilla producer, indie Godfather. Like I see you sitting in your darkened room, like a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Wednesday. Just introducing people to. Other people and just saying, hey, let's just make movies and work hard at it. And I have a network of a couple people that if I find, a Kickstarter or Indiegogo that looks interesting, I go, hey, check this out. See what you think. This looks interesting. That's something, that's something that you're really good at that I am not as good at. First of all, I don't know how you stay as busy as you do, and also keep up on everybody else's projects. Like, I'm really busy, and one thing that falls off for me completely, especially these days, is the social networking thing, like Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff. If I get busy, that's the first thing that I don't get to that day, because there are like a million other stuff. But you are always on. I have a smartphone, and where I got a minute or two and somebody's not up my rear end at the day job, I'll blast out a tweet. Because if you notice, it's not just about film. I try to lighten it up and put other things out there. Yeah.
Something I find sarcastically amusing, I'll put it out to get a reaction out of people.
Yeah. Keeping up with social media is basically his job.
Yeah.
Because you got to do that marketing all the time, and you got to, from what I've learned from social networking, is you got to be consistent. Yeah. So it's like a discipline habit.
It's a discipline. So here's right before we go. If you had 5 minutes with somebody and had to give them 3 tips on they're about to make their first short film or film or something, and if you only had time to tell them 3 things that they should do to make a better movie, what would they be?
I give them 2 things. Put in the hard work and don't ever, ever give up.
So you only need to give them 2 points.
That's the 2 things. And if you've got something good, people will come and watch it.
Yeah. That works.
Too many people, like we talked about before, too many people get a setback and they go, okay, I'm finished. I'm never going to do anything again. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in your story. You got to believe in your script. You got to believe in your filmmaking abilities and get it done. Nothing's easy. Everyone would be doing it if it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of people give up.
Yeah. And sometimes you do make a bad movie. Like, you have a movie just totally choke on you, and that's not necessarily you're a bad filmmaker or a bad storyteller. You just had you just got to do better.
You needed to learn some stuff.
You had to choke, so you
had a calamity of errors happen all on 2-day period.
Exactly.
And so I just took a step back and say, okay, that didn't work. Plan B, here we go.
Plan B, here we go. Next project. Moving on. Yep. So you got to
moving on.
Part of it is you have to be really.
Well, you got to know when to cut your losses too, because there is a time when that's in the equation. Say this isn't going to work.
This isn't going to work.
See, that's number 3.
That's number 3. Yeah. Don't quit. Yeah. Always believe in your filmmaking.
And know when to give up.
But if it's time to quit, quit. So the thing is, though, there's a fine line, like a balance between being I struggle with this myself, trying to find the moment. Okay, so you're on fire for your project, right? You're ready to go. Your project is going to be the project that saves the world. Your film is going to save the universe. All it needs to happen is you have to finish it and get it out there in front of people. You have to be like that, but also when you're done, you have to be able to let it go and move on to the next thing and not just get stuck on that one thing forever. Because I feel like one of the things you have to have is you have to have a lot of projects that you're working on, because one might hit before the other one, and you don't want to be stuck on the one thing forever trying to get that one thing made. Because for me, I want to tell stories. I want to make a movie. I want to make movies. I don't want to make this movie necessarily, but when I'm working on that movie, that is the movie I want to make. Like, you have to be willing to die for it, basically. But if you're not in a moment where you're ready to get it made, where you don't have the money, you don't have the resources, the people, or whatever, you can't just sit there and
wallow
in that project forever. You have to work on something else, like maybe hit something from another point of view, so that another angle, so you can get something made.
When that one feature fell apart, I took a step back and I didn't want to do anything for like a week or two, but then I moved forward and I shot half a dozen short films.
Yes, it's like that.
It's like getting back on the motorcycle after you crash. You got to ride.
Yeah, you got to ride.
And they were all fulfilling, and they were all totally different movies. But, I was able to make relationships with my crew, found some really talented individuals along the way. And, flash forward 6 years, 5 years, what year is it right now? It actually worked out to my benefit.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have told me that at the time.
Yeah, like it's sort of like they say, fail up. Like, if you're going to have a failure, turn it into a success by learning from it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything has a learning curve.
Yeah. And that's a skill too, is to be able to take the lesson out of a failure so that it's not a failure anymore. You got to turn it into something productive. Because if you just failed, you'd be like, never doing that again.
The thing is, I make mistakes, but I never make the same one twice. You got to live and learn to move on.
Right. Awesome.
And then when you see that same thing, the same scenario happening, you go, oh, I've been down this road before. Let's take a step back and fix this before it gets too far out of control, because I've already been there. I know what happens when you take the left fork.
Yeah, and then you're that guy, well, I've been there and I've done that, and everybody's rolling your eyes, and you're like, you can roll your eyes all you want to. I know this is not going to work.
We were in the middle of shooting, and our lead actress went down at 10 o'clock in the morning with appendicitis.
Whoop.
And I had all this equipment rented for the weekend. And I got with a director, and who was also a good writer, and I go, who do you know as an actor? And he knew one guy, I knew a guy. We rewrote a whole scene as these guys were coming up to LA to shoot it, gave them their sides, worked them out, and then shot it, 4 hours later. And it ended up being one of the best parts of the whole film.
Yeah.
It worked out really good. But at the time, it was like everyone wanted to quit. I go, no, we're not quitting.
Yeah.
It's like a happy accident.
Yeah, and it's the show.
We're rewriting.
It's also the show must go on. We're stuck. We have to do this now. It's not like we can reconvene at a more convenient time. We have to do this now, and you gotta. Yeah. That's what I'm. I know. I sound like a broken record sometimes. It's like that's what I'm always telling my students. You have to. You have to have a plan so that when your plan falls apart, you also have a plan for that. It's not like you just. It's not like you show up at 9 o'clock in the morning. Not like you show up at 9 o'clock in the morning anyway.
Yeah.
But you don't show up at 9 in the morning and go, well, "What are we going to do today? What do you think?" You have to know so that when shit hits the fan, you know how to react to that and move on, so that you don't just get shut down because one bad thing happened.
From a producer point of view, you're like weather. If you're shooting outside. If it rains, you've got your plan B worked out, your alternate shoots, and you just have to be able to, even if you don't have a plan B, you need to be able to come up with one on the fly, like he just said. Problem solve.
Well, plus the fact, too, if you're a good producer, you would have looked at the forecast the day before and know that there was a chance of rain.
Exactly.
So you have a contingency plan that, okay, if this is what we want to shoot, but if this happens, we're going inside and we're shooting this out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because you got to remember, everything there costs money.
Exactly.
It's a money thing, and if you don't shoot, you're still spending the money.
Yeah. So time is money. So that if this thing doesn't happen, what are the alternatives? What are all the locations? Who are all the people that are there?
Yeah.
I like the way he thinks, because that's like how I am, like all the time with everything. I'm like. It's kind of like, it's not like you're a doomsayer or you're like, here's where everything can go wrong. But literally, when you're working with that little budget and you've been on enough shoots where you know what can and will go wrong, you just, like I said before, I think begin with the end in mind and be like, okay, this doesn't work. Here's all the alternatives that we can do, because we've got this money and it's not going to waste. We got this equipment. We got these people. We're doing something.
We're doing something. Exactly. So, Calvin, is there anything else that we need to add? I know we talked about your website. Anything else you want to say before we wrap it up? I've thoroughly enjoyed listening. I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you.
Follow our writer-director, Jonathan Chance, at Carry On John.
Carry On John. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's
and then
that's
just
Twitter.
Follow me, and I give updates. I got a couple big announcements that I can't release just yet.
Come on!
Things are happening in a good way.
Not just for us. What if we?
No, we got a couple.
What if we promise not to tell anybody?
We got a couple actors on board that'll be a game changer.
That's awesome.
But
that's
I can't
awesome.
quite let that loose quite yet.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you, man. Just keep working. You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. And anytime you want to come back on and update, let everybody what's going on. You learn some new lessons.
Yeah, we learned some stuff too, man. I've been wanting to talk with a rainmaker, or somebody that knows how to, find the people that get the money, because that's like the biggest wall we've had for the longest time.
Going.
Yeah. Well, you seem to be working it. You're getting there.
Well, and I usually make a couple tours every year, and I'll probably be swinging through South Florida, and we always go up to Epcot, so I'll be down the street.
Yeah.
We can
Yep.
maybe stop by and have an adult beverage or something.
Yes.
Oh, we will be there.
Definitely. I'd like to meet you in person, shake your hand face to face.
Yeah, and shove a portable microphone recorder in your face.
We're gonna let you go, and just wish you luck. Real quick, if you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at Film Reverie on Twitter. And if you want to send us an email, it is filmreveriepodcast@gmail.com. And as always, if you would like to call in our voice line and leave us a voice message, ask us a question or anything like that, the number is 321-804-3271.
Also,
Calvin.
I was going to say before we end, just promote next week's episode in the Orlando Film Festival.
Oh, yeah. We have a special episode on Wednesday that's going to be coming out Wednesday the 22nd. We have an interview with the associate director of the Orlando Film Festival. His name is Jerry Cavallaro. He is we're going to have a talk. We're going to talk about the film festival and all the cool stuff you should see. And he has some interesting insight about the Orlando Film Festival itself, but also what it's like to program a film festival.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to that. Anyway, hey, Calvin, thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you get back to
raising money
and making movies.
No, I'm going back to scheduling.
Oh, scheduling.
I got it up on the laptop. Yes, sir.
Well, have fun doing that, too, because I don't know if you know this, but scheduling is a very important part of the process.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Of course.
Hey, real quick.
That's what I'll be doing between now and Monday morning.
Yeah, like on your weekend, your time off. Yeah.
Nights and weekends.
Do you ever feel like you go to your day job where you can relax?
Well, every time I think like that, something happens, and some days it's a pressure cooker. But
yeah.
I've been doing it for a long time, and I can go in with half my brain tied behind my back, so to speak,
right,
and get her done. But that's what pays the bills until we can launch this movie. My goal is to be able to quit my day job. That's what's driving me more than anything.
That's all of our goals.
You and a billion other people. But I totally understand. I'm with you on that.
But that's the big driver because I like to be creative. And as long as I have my mortgage paid, I don't need to be rich. I just need to pay my bills.
Exactly. All right, well, awesome. Well, we will let you get back to it. Enjoy your nice weekend enjoy your weekend of filmmaking, because that's what you're doing right now.
And get some sleep.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
All right, cool. We will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right,
Bye.
bye. Film Reverie is a production of Broken Sunset Films, LLC. It was created and is produced under a Creative Commons license by Michael Beckemeyer and Bradley Kingston. Copyright Broken Sunset Films, LLC, 2014.
You can't talk about the gas stick and the gas and the dick and the thing and the putting in the pussy pop. It's not right.
It's not right.
You can't pop the pussy with the gas stick. It's not. You can what?
You can't pop the pussy with the gas stick. You cannot say the Jello pudding pop. Have a Coke and a smile and shut the f*** up.